Hello and welcome back to Invincible Asia. I'm George Clark and this is another bonus episode of Deep Impact, where today I take a look back at the issue from June 1992, an issue that is possibly to me the worst designed cover ever put out in the history of Impact Action Movie Magazine. It's just gross, and I only hope that what's inside is a wee bit more entertaining. So let's go Deep Impact. Don't forget folks, before we go any further, if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel, like the video, ring the bell and all that jibber jabber, and thank you very much for supporting Invincible Asia. So yeah, not a very appealing cover whatsoever, featuring a mullet-wearing Chuck Norris from his film The Hitman, doused in this sickly green colour, which is just, well, ugh. Anyway, it also reminds us that Norris is still a part of this issue over here, alongside Stallone in Stop or My Mom Will Shoot, which again it reminds us about just below, and the late Patrick Swayze gets two mentions also, right next to each other, offering a free pull-out poster mag. So yes, a pretty awful design overall, but let's get stuck in. Kicking things off, we see an ad and order form for the magazine called Kung Fu Monthly, another publication from MAI and a magazine I never really got into, too much Bruce Lee for me at that time. Opposite is the contents page, obviously a lot less than later issues I've been covering, and of course the Baywatch editorial. Let's see what he has to say. As I write this, it's just a few days since Impact staged an exclusive UK theatrical screening of Showdown in Little Tokyo at the Scala Cinema in London's King's Cross. If you were one of the lucky fans that got tickets to this show, you'll know that you really got your money's worth. Besides the Showdown screening, the audience got to see Sammo Hung's awesome pedicab driver and the sneak trailer for Van Damme's Universal Soldier, and got a chance to meet and greet members of the Impact team to buy the latest issue and back issues of the magazine, and the chance to get hold of videos from Rick Baker's new range of Hong Kong action titles. We got our money's worth as well, because it gave us a real buzz to get to meet so many of you guys, and to catch up with what you like and don't like about Great Britain's one and only Action Movie Monthly. I'd also like to thank our guests at the Impact Roadshow stall, who were Hong Kong Malaysian movie stuntman Darren Shalavi, Star Trek The Next Generation stuntman John Carrigan, and Action Films cinematographer editor Paul Cohen. All three were happy to answer questions about the movie biz, and we were delighted to have them at the show. We'd like to continue with our series of film shows, and we want you to be there. Which films would you like us to screen? Of Great Britain's major cities, London, Birmingham and Manchester, which would be the most convenient for you? Write and let us know. Recently, we've received a couple of letters critical of our coverage of Hong Kong action movies. Of course, everyone is entitled to their opinion, and if some of our readers don't like the stunt, gun and fight-filled Cantonese capers of Chinese cinema, that's their prerogative. However, I would take issue with the statement, made by at least one such complainant, that Hong Kong movies are, as a genre, qualitatively inferior to American-made actioneers. For one thing, such critics have almost certainly not seen the very best Hong Kong action movies, while they may very well have seen the finest American product. A head-to-head comparison can produce surprising results. Cases in point, when we screened Eastern Condors as a support film to Double Impact and Pedicab Driver as a support for Showdown in Little Tokyo, the feedback from the audience was unanimously positive. In fact, many people present said that they preferred the Hong Kong martial arts actioneers to the American-made variety. Just goes to show that, in terms of movie-making budgets, art is born of restraint and dies of freedom. Bay Logan, editor. Nice piece, and below that, everyone that works on the magazine laid out as it was on a movie poster or video cover. Moving on though. Page 4 kicks off a 4-page interview with Chuck Norris, America's first action hero who's been reinvented a number of times over the decades. But you can't help but love him. Norris turns mean and moody in The Hitman and talks karate, movies, politics and Steven Seagal in candid conversation with Bay Logan. I mean, it's a pretty good interview with Bay being Bay, brown-nosing Norris and talking about the different side of Chuck that we see in The Hitman, going on to say that it was the most cold-blooded he had seen Chuck play in any of his movies. He slightly offends once again, and it wouldn't be like him, when he says to Chuck that although he has a huge following, he's never really had a hit film like Die Hard or Lethal Weapon. Of course, Chuck gives him a blunt lesson on marketing budgets and big studio finances. He goes on to talk about how Steven Seagal remade Chuck's most successful film, Code of Silence, as Nico, or Above the Law, before Norris reveals that it was initially supposed to be him starring in the remake, although he was tied up with Cannon at the time. Bay then mentions how Seagal has made some negative comments against Chuck in the media, but the star responds with, "Yeah, but it's backfired on him. I tell you, the martial arts community is up in arms against that guy." It continues to reveal how Bob Wall and a bunch of other old-time karate guys offered Seagal the challenge that he wanted, in the dojo, but suddenly Seagal retracted his comments and wanted to do a show with Chuck to keep the peace. It's interesting though, he doesn't have anything really good to say about Seagal overall, and most would have those same thoughts again today. They finish off talking about sidekicks and how much fun it was, and also how good the kid became after Norris had trained him. Of course, you can see the picture here of Bay interviewing Chuck at the time. Nice piece overall, and part 2 continues in the following month's issue. Page 8 and 9 are wasted with ads and competitions where Impact are giving away 5 VHS copies of the awesome Mutronics, aka the Guyver, from director Steve Wang. You just have to answer 5 ridiculous questions. Down the side of that, a list of fan clubs including Alienator Fan Club, National Starfleet Alliance, and magazines of the movies. Opposite to that, the old Rambo-inspired ad for subscribing to Impact, and beside that, another badly written one for picking up the Impact binders to keep them all in. I still don't get the reference to the Joker, mind you. Anyway, moving on. We're rolling away the stone with Ricky Baker as he reviews Free Jack, starring Mick Jagger and Emilio Estevez. Now, that's a movie I haven't seen in forever. Rick's views are kind of mixed though. I mean, he didn't love it, and he does drop a couple of Rolling Stones puns throughout, but his final paragraph does read, "All in all, this film will make little impact on cinegoers looking for this year's Terminator 2. However, I am sure that it's top 5 material for the video charts. The impressive trailer and synopsis line will lure the unsuspecting punter to part with his hard-earned £2, and at that price, after a jar and a curry, the film will possibly pass pleasantly by and will fit nicely into the needs no concentration category. As for Mick, is this his last film? Well, this could be the last time. Maybe the last time. I don't know." Well, there you go. Still, it has become somewhat of a cult classic and probably deserves a rewatch sometime soon. Overleaf, we get the lightning rod, and unlike later versions of Impact magazine, they seem to be focusing on less news, but with bigger write-ups. The first is an update on Van Damme. The opening part of it discusses a possible affair he was having back then, before it oddly jumps to how Van Damme attended a kickboxing tournament in Vegas, before mentioning some kickboxers that got into film. Next to that, there's a piece on the fun Lethal Weapon 3, and after reading through both of these articles, it seems that Impact was getting a lot of its info from the National Enquirer, as they keep mentioning it with "according to." Anyway, of course, the lightning rod continues over the page to some degree, where they combine it with Word Up, and a very different Word Up to the blocky black and white design in the later issues. In this one, they mentioned a couple of worthwhile things for me. Hong Kong star Jackie Chan is in the hot seat, politically that is, after the home of one of his special effects men blew up. Apparently, this crew member had been storing explosives at his house, which is a strict no-no under Hong Kong law. Chan is still shooting scenes for Police Story 3 in Malaysia and the Philippines, but must face the music upon his return. Below that, speaking of remakes, TriStar's Mike Medavoy has announced that Denzel Washington may join Richard Gere and director Walter Hill for an American version of John Woo's high-octane Hong Kong thriller The Killer. Over here, the new title of Steven Seagal's Die Hard at Sea project is Last to Surrender. It used to be called Dreadnought. Maybe someone told him that there was a Golden Harvest film starring Ewan Bew with that title. Come to think of it, Seagal had to call his debut film Nico in the UK because there was already an Above the Law from Golden Harvest and starring Ewan Bew. Here's hoping they never meet in person. And just down at the bottom here, ever wondered what happened to No Retreat, No Surrender star Kurt McKinney? Wonder no more. He's back, and producer Eung Se-yoon has got him. No Retreat, No Surrender 2, or 3 or 4 depending upon your country of origin, is currently shooting in the Far East, with McKinney playing the lead role. Well, that was a load of nonsense, and more so considering they posted a picture of No Retreat, No Surrender Part 3 with Lorraine Avedon just above it. But Kurt never did return to the martial arts genre until 1996's Sworn to Justice with Cynthia Rothrock, and had worked in television up until that since No Retreat, appearing in over 250 episodes of General Hospital. Anyway, next to that, a piece on RoboCop and the upcoming RoboCop 3 with news that original star Peter Weller is being replaced by Robert Burke. And finally down the side, an ad for Movie Boulevard selling soundtracks, videos, film memorabilia and Laserdiscs. We just don't have shops like that anymore. What a pity. Anyway, moving on. Page 16 kicks off an article called Cops and Comedy, a 2-page piece divided by this pull-out poster mag featuring the late Patrick Swayze, seen here on the front in a shot from what I think is Point Break. Now, without removing it from the mag to show the full piece, Ian Fryer delivers a big write-up on him inside, covering his career and films such as Dirty Dancing, Ghost, Roadhouse and much more, with the piece continuing over to a third page that continues to get quite in-depth. The article finishes with Ian stating, "As ever, Patrick Swayze walks the tightrope, never afraid to take risks and try something different. The guy deserves to succeed just for that." Going back to Cops and Comedy, which they have divided into 2 parts, the first article is on Christian Slater's Cuffs, accompanied by a coloured ad on how to attract girls. Ugh. And on the other page, Part 2, with a review of Stallone's action comedy, Stop or My Mom Will Shoot, which clearly didn't entertain this particular reviewer. His opening paragraph says it all, really. This film should have been entitled, Stop or the Audience Will Shoot the Projectionist. That's how bad it is. Oh, Jesus Christ. Mainstream critics almost always turn their noses up at action movie fare, but in this case, both they and the American audiences who already decided to stay away from the film in droves are dead right. Stop is a dog of the finest pedigree. I mean, I enjoyed it way back then. I'm a big fan of Stallone as a star and a filmmaker, and I do laugh every night at Estelle Getty when I watch an episode of The Golden Girls before bed. But I also think that this movie has went on to gain more love over the years than Impact portrays here. Anyway, that other shitty ad for building muscles fast helps fill out the page, but let's move on. Next up, we have the Impact Letters page where Clive from Upper Colwyn Bay wants to know if Bay will do a write-up on Kim Basinger, Aliens, Indiana Jones, etc. Stuart from Birchwood is a big fan of Steven Seagal and just wanted to clarify that Out for Justice was his best movie at the time, while Darren from East Sussex praises China Beat and lets us all know how much of a Hong Kong movie fan he really is. Apparently so much so that he begged his dealer to buy Jackie Chan's Miracles so that he could rent it. And Patricia from Kent just wanted to say how much of a Chuck Norris fan she was and asks if there will be any Chuck Norris interviews coming up. Well, I'm sure Patricia shit herself with excitement when this issue came out. And finally, more fan club addresses, including those for the Chuck Norris International Fan Club, Jean-Claude Van Damme, Linda Hamilton International, Chow Yun-Fat International Friends Club, Eastern Heroes, and the Bruce Lee Association. Fun times. Following that, we get an awesome 2-page spread on China Beat, a brief but bold overview of a handful of Hong Kong action classics due for video release on these shores. Since we started our China Beat way back in issue 2, we've done our level best to provide news and views for all the Far Eastern fight and fright film fans out there, and to turn on mainstream action movie buffs to the wild and wacky new wave in Hong Kong cinema. This month, we pump up the volume and look at 5 fast and furious and funky flicks and news about where you can get hold of them on video. Encounters of the spooky kind too. Remember the Jonathan Ross hosted season of late night Hong Kong horror flicks screened a couple of Christmases ago? Was that really back then that long? Oh my god. This is the long awaited sequel to one of the best of them, actor-director Sammo Hung's Spooky Encounters. Okay, so the follow-up features more ghosties than Kung Fu, but Sammo's direction is slick as ever. The featured creatures are far out and far eastern in origin, and Mr. Vampire himself, Lam Ching Ying, is always a joy to watch. Spooky 2 makes for a nice introductory feature for those new to the ghost and gung fu genre, being more plot driven than some of the other Far Eastern fear fests. Note to the newcomer, rent or buy anything that has the name Sammo Hung attached to it. Return Engagement, a run-of-the-mill Hong Kong actioneer, one of a genre dubbed by veteran Hong Kong film fanatic Rick Baker, Heroic Bloodshed. Shot partially in Canada, the movie features genre veterans Andy Lau and Simon Yam in supporting roles, while one-time heartthrob Tang Gong Wing, Alan Tang, returns from semi-retirement to take centre stage as a former triad leader hunting for his daughter. The girl remains lost, as does most of the plot. The film builds to the anticipated Blood and Bullets finale, and this alone is worth the rental price of this well-packaged oddity. A moment of romance. If you buy only one Heroic Bloodshed title in your whole life, then it has to be this one. Ubiquitous juvenile lead Andy Lau plays yet another of his familiar troubled street tough roles, but this time in a vehicle that allows him to deliver the performance of his career. Newcomer Eun Sin Len makes a stunning debut as the innocent who provides the moment of romance in the blasted life of Lau's rebel without a pause. Breathtaking cinematography, terrific action set pieces, and a haunting original score. Simply the best Hong Kong actioneer of 1990. Absolutely, it was fantastic. Below that, Shanghai Express. Long scheduled, still eagerly awaited by the cognoscenti, this Eastern Western ranks second only to the epic Eastern Condors as the finest martial arts actioneer from the recent work of the prolific Sammo Hung. An all-star cast includes Cynthia Rothrock, Yun Bio, Richard Norton, Yukari Oshima, Jimmy one-arm boxer Wang Yu, Shek, Mr. Han, Kin, and more Hong comics and stuntmen than you can shake a nunchuck at. Clips from Express feature prominently in the Best of the Martial Arts compilation, and martial arts movie fans should look forward to the release of the entire film, which features one of the most action-packed final reels in living memory. Did we mention that you should buy anything featuring the name Sammo Hung? And finally, In the Line of Duty 5, Middleman. Okay, so you never saw In the Line of Duties 1, 2, 3 and 4. Well, actually you may have done. 1 was released here as Police Assassins 2, 2 as Police Assassins, and 4 as In the Line of Duty. This film, like number 3 in the series, gives rising star Cynthia Can a chance to shine in a solo outing. Plot-wise, the movie could be retitled Muddle Man, but the convoluted storyline does allow for some spectacular action sequences and a confident lead performance by Miss Can. Extensive use of locations in Korea, where Cynthia is hugely popular, give the film a more expensive look than most domestic Hong Kong productions. And below that, it just basically lists the Eastern Heroes shop where you can pick all of those videos up. Good stuff, nice layout. I just wish it had been half the magazine on Hong Kong movies. Following that, we get a 2-page full-colour ad on MAI Videotech, a regular feature ad of all future Impact issues, which was always fun to go through as a young teen. Next up is a 2-page spread on Basic Instinct. Hardly an action movie per se, but we know that Impact was grabbing for as many Hollywood movies as possible to draw in some new readers. Can't say it's one I've ever sat the whole way through, but given the actors involved and that it's from the director of RoboCop and Total Recall, I should go back to it someday soon. Anyway, moving on. Page 26 brings us the second part of the Bruce Fontaine memoirs from his time on Operation Condor. This time, Bruce talks about training in the park with other Guilos during their time off, and that they soon would have stuntmen from Jackie, Sammo and Yun Bio's teams coming to join in. Now clearly they were having such a great time that My Lucky Stars actress Michiko Nishiwaki and Scorpion King actor Wong Jin also showed up. He goes on to talk about how the shoot in Morocco was mostly spent in the pool as it was too hot to shoot through the day, before revealing how the epic end scene was built and filmed on the Shaw Brothers backlot. Over here he mentions, Jackie may not be the greatest martial artist to grace the earth, but he is the best at what he does, making modern action films the way only he can. He bridges a gap between violence and comedy, producing something to please all. There is yet to be an action star in the East or West that is as capable and willing to give as much of himself. Interesting. Still, one of my favourite Jackie Chan films, and nice to read some stories on it from a very different perspective. Next up, we have 2 pages on Steve Wang's awesome Mutronics, the first Guyver movie. I love this film so much, and its sequel, Dark Hero. The article talks about those behind it, namely Steve Wang and Screaming Mad George, both legends in the practical effects world, before it breaks down the synopsis and talks about some of the monster zoonoids involved. The last paragraph reads, with its mixture of monsters, martial arts, all performed by men in suits, so don't expect overly dexterous techniques, transformations, and a hero who, at one point, rebuilds himself from a severed eyeball swallowed by a horned zoonoid, from whose belly he rips his way out of, Mutronics passes the time nicely, and a sequel to this movie isn't such an awful thought either. Fun times. I did get the Arrow Blu-ray release quite a while back, but I wish they would release the sequel, Guyver Dark Hero, with just as much care. Anyway, moving on. Over on the video scene, Ace's Iron Eagle 3 seems to be the only new release of the month worth writing about. I mean, I did enjoy the first 2, but I don't think I've ever watched this one. And opposite to that, the Coming Soon page, highlighting articles on Mel Gibson, Cynthia Rothrock, Dragon the Bruce Lee story, Steven Seagal, Jackie Chan, Showdown in Little Tokyo, and Sylvester Stallone, as well as a free Sylvester Stallone poster mag. And on the back page, another ad from MAI Videotech for your chance to buy 2 of their videos, Young Guns 2 at $10.99 or Don the Dragon Wilson's Ring of Fire for the small price of just $59.99. I right, okay, whatever. Anyway, this has been another bonus episode of Deep Impact. Thank you so much for watching and for the continued support. Until next time though, enjoy your Kung Fu, and I'll see you soon.
So thank you once again for watching another video here on Invincible Asia. Don't forget you can check out hundreds of others here on the channel. You can also show your continued support by heading over to my new merch store or by checking out invincibleasia.com, where you can read my full movie reviews and follow me on Instagram at InvincibleAsia. Until next time though, enjoy your Kung Fu and I will see you soon.